I've never followed a proposal, I have to admit that. I've spoken in front of a lot of different people, a lot of groups all over the world, but never after a proposal. So the energy kind of goes. So there have been so many great comments today from all the speakers. And as they were talking, like David just spoke about life being done not to us, but for us in words. I like to view life symbolically. I believe that we're put here in order to learn, and part of learning is all of these challenges and difficulties. And yesterday, I actually dropped my son off. Glenita just asked me how I'm feeling, and I'm exhausted because I flew to New York City on Tuesday with my son, who just turned 23 and just graduated from college. He's starting his first real job in New York City on Monday. So I went with him to go and help him get an apartment set up and make sure that he had at least a bed, some sheets and things like that. And then as we have to do, I had to leave. I had to say goodbye and let him go. And I went to JFK and got on the airplane, or got to the airport, and there was a 2-hour delay for my plane. So when I got to Salt Lake last night, I was 2 hours late, ran from my plane home to Sun Valley, and I missed it by 1 minute. And I cried like you cannot believe, because I really needed to cry about my boy, but I was crying about missing the plane. Anyway, I had to fly home today and then just got here, so I barely had any sleep. But my point is that everything that's happening in the world is there, I believe, for us to wake up and realize that we are the answer. That we every day have to seek what is best in us and all that is good. Because the truth is, those people in DC are not there for us. They are there to protect the system, to support and defend the administration or the structure that exists, the bureaucracy, the governmental agencies, the entire bureaucracy, all of the system, all of the corporations. Think about what happened under COVID. How many people lost their jobs? How many people lost their businesses? And how did the giant corporations fare? It was the largest theft of money from the middle and lower classes that's ever happened in this country. And it happened because all of us have taken our eyes off the ball for the last 100 years. That's the truth. We have not done the hard work of showing up at our school board meetings, at our city council meetings. The Gang of Eight is a fantastic example to all of us because they've engaged. They have actually said, you know what, I'm going to do the hard work. I'm going to stand up. I'm going to go to Boise for 3 or 4 months every year and work my butt off. And this is what it takes in order to defend our system, because those people in DC are not doing it for us. And we have to completely disabuse ourselves of any notion that they are going to protect us. Our Congressman Mike Simpson right now is protecting the pesticide manufacturers. He wants to help pass a bill that would effectively protect the pesticide manufacturers from liability for their products. So you get cancer from spraying Roundup, you can't sue. They want to freeze the label in 1993 and not allow any new science to affect the label and not allow you to use it in a court of law, effectively outlawing any kind of lawsuits. This is what Simpson is doing. But he's not alone. He's being aided and abetted by hundreds and hundreds of other people in DC. This is so important for us all to understand because they are not our answer. I know it's so much easier to think, oh, someone's going to come in and our president's going to do us good. Well, actually, our president is doing lots of good things, but lots of bad things. How many people know that we have a stable coin now, which is effectively a central bank digital currency through the back door? That's happened under this president. I know most of us probably voted for him. I did. But we can't take our eye off the ball just because our guy is in office. We cannot do that. In fact, that is when we must be most vigilant, because when our guy is in office, most people disconnect on that side and think, I don't have to worry anymore, everything's okay. He wouldn't do anything that we don't like. What about these digital identifications that they want for border patrols? Do you think there's any possibility that they will get that through and then apply it to all of us? Of course. Why do you think the other side let in all the people in the first place? To create the problem so that we, the public, would demand the solution and they would offer it to us, which is digital enslavement. That's where this is all headed. And just because he has the same, hails from the same party and seems to be on the same side of the aisle, doesn't mean that they're always doing what we need or want them to do, or that they're defending our liberty or our principles. It's kind of scary. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is right here in this yard and right here in our state. I made an award-winning documentary on vaccines in 2011. I started making it and researching it in 2001. And it came out in 2011. It's called The Greater Good, and we won a bunch of awards for it. People who really understood the truth about vaccines back then got the movie and embraced it. But it's only been in the last 3 to 5 years that the public in general watches that film and it resonates with them very deeply on a level that they never understood before they saw the last 5 years. Because how many of us here in the audience actually conceived the COVID tyranny that happened? I know I never did. Growing up in Idaho, I couldn't even believe that this kind of thing happened. But for the last 15, 20 years, I've been working to protect our medical freedoms. And in July of 2024, I can't remember what year we are in July of 2024, I decided I was going to try and get a bill passed that I and many of my friends in the health freedom arena have been contemplating, but never actually had the courage to pursue for many, many years. And that was the Idaho Medical Freedom Act. So I started thinking about what I would want to do with this bill, and then I started researching whether or not there was anything existing in Idaho statute. And Misty Karlfeld, my friend, and Sarah Clendenin at Health Freedom Idaho, Misty introduced me to a legislator who ultimately betrayed me, but I will just say for now, he at least sponsored the bill initially. But I took the Coronavirus Stop Act and I repurposed it to expand it to every single kind of medical intervention that any state, entity, employer, venue, entertainment, anything could try and force on us. No tests, no masks, no pills, no creams, no devices. They want us to be chipped at some point, friends. They want us to all wear monitors. And they actually have the technology to not just monitor us, but influence us through those monitors. So I worked together with a lot of people in the House, some people in the Senate. Christy and Glenita were incredible, and so was the rest of the Gang of Eight. They were absolutely fantastic. And we got the Idaho Medical Freedom Act passed after the governor vetoed it the first time. So the Idaho Medical Freedom Act means that no one in the state can be forced to take a medical intervention, with a few exceptions, in order to live a normal life. Meaning that no one can force you to do something just to go to the store, or to go to school, or to provide for your family, or to take your kid to the doctor, or to do anything like that. We are the first state, not only in the nation, in the world, to pass this kind of legislation. This is how we govern. This is how we govern ourselves, folks. This is how we do it. We have an idea, we have the courage, we find our allies, and we have faith and belief that we can actually achieve what we set out to do. Nobody believed that we could do it. Nobody believed I could do it. But you know what? As I stood there and presented the bill in the Senate and then in the House to the committees, we have the moral authority, because who has the power or the authority to tell you what's best for you? Nobody, exactly. Who has the moral authority to tell you how you should treat yourself when you are sick, or how you should keep yourself well? Nobody. And who has to live with the consequences of your choices? Nobody but you. We have to turn this over. We have to stop it. There are so many lawsuits. I founded a nonprofit 5 years ago called the Health Freedom Defense Fund. We're the organization that stopped masks on all airplanes, trains, buses, everything. That was us. Working on the federal level taught me something, though, and that is that the answer is at home. And that's why I'm working so much in Idaho, my beloved Idaho, to try and save this state, because I truly believe that Idaho can be the light on the hill, the beacon of truth, the beacon of freedom, the beacon of truly representative governance. That's what we should be. So in the last session, legislative session, we passed the Idaho Medical Freedom Act. We passed a bill that constrains the Idaho health districts from doing all things. They used to be able to do all things. Literally anything that some bureaucrat decided they wanted to do to us, they could, as long as they labeled it for public health. How outrageous is that? So we took that away. We stopped recognizing the World Health Organization. Any edicts that emanate from the World Health Organization are null in Idaho. I'm trying to think now some of the other things we did. We did so many fantastic things. But it's only thanks to these courageous legislators who are all here today, represented here today, and others in the state who've been fantastic. They need our support, not just financially. I know there have been a lot of asks for, support, and of course they need that. But they need us to talk to our friends and our neighbors and explain to them that these are true blue, that these are people who really care about us, who are actually not going to sell us down the river, who are not going to betray their promises to us. That's how we're going to make a difference here. And I'm not going to lie, listen, things are extremely dark in lots of ways. Like I mentioned, the pesticide liability bill, the stable coin. In California, this is something else that's happening. So, we have a new Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He has been doing unbelievable work in order to try and actually expose some of the science about vaccines and their problems. And not just vaccines, but all the health issues, all of the garbage that we find in the inside of the grocery store. If you go around the outside of the grocery store, the perimeter, that's where the real food is. All the stuff in the boxes is the stuff that's actually really not very good for you. He's trying to expose all of these kinds of things. And what's he being met with? Not support for trying to make us healthier. Unbelievable attacks. They're trying to actually impeach him now. That's the latest. And it was actually leaked about 5 or 6 months ago that the trade association for a bunch of pharmaceutical companies have actually gotten together, created a $4 million war chest, and they're using that money to go out and try and curry favor and buy people who will go and try and undermine the secretary. And his whole purpose is to try and improve our health and have what he calls radical transparency, and he's being fought. He's being fought by those people in DC, in the swamp, who don't give a darn about us. But our people here do. So last week, there's all sorts of horrible things happening, and people are fighting Secretary Kennedy at every turn. The CDC has just issued some new guidance about some of certain health policies. And so what's been the response? In the Northeast, a bunch of states have decided they are going to secede from the CDC, and they are going to adopt their own vaccination schedules. They don't care about what the science says, which has been buried for decades. They are concerned about politics. California, Washington, and Oregon have done the same thing. In fact, California just changed the law by rushing it through to mandate COVID shots for children to go to school. And they've just mandated the Gardasil vaccine, which is something that's given to adolescents, purportedly to protect them from cervical and anal cancer. But it's absurd. The vaccines are actually associated with far, far worse health outcomes in those kids who get them, and even in things like primary ovarian failure, which is also known as early menopause, teenagers going into menopause from that shot. So, unbelievable evil forces against us. I'm not going to try and paint this any better, but we do have some really positive things happening, like what's happened in Idaho, and we also have the wind at our back for the first time ever, in that our president has seen with his own eyes children regress into autism after vaccinations. And he held a press conference together with the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Bobby Kennedy, and the NIH director, the FDA commissioner, the head of CMS, Dr. Oz, and I can't remember who else was there, CDC acting director. Last Monday, I believe it was. It might have been Tuesday. And let me tell you, it was a truly historic event, because he stood up there, and you probably have all heard about his warnings that pregnant women and babies and children not take Tylenol, right? If you heard about Tylenol, please raise your hand. How many of you heard that they're going to take out all the mercury and aluminum from all the vaccines? That's the real issue. They want you to focus on the Tylenol, because what did Trump always say? The media is the enemy of the people. The media truly are the enemy of the people. Take it from someone who's been smeared constantly by the media for the last 15 years. They're going to take out all the aluminum and the mercury. Why in the world would we inject children, babies, and pregnant women with known neurotoxins? But we've been doing it for decades. In fact, if a woman follows the schedule today, she'll get 5 vaccines while she's pregnant. This is utter insanity. But you know what it does? It obscures the fact that the vaccines damage the children, because when the child is born, you just think they were born that way. That's the purpose of this. We're talking truly sinister, folks. So he said, we're going to take out the aluminum and the mercury. We are going to delay the hepatitis B vaccine given to babies within hours of birth till 12 years of age. This is huge. The sitting president is saying this. Can you imagine how terrified the pharmaceutical industry is of this? And then he said the MMR shot should be broken up. So give them singly, M, and R, measles, mumps, and rubella. Give them all individually, which you can't do right now, but I'm sure that they will push the pharmaceutical industry to create new shots. Go back to the way it used to be. Because there's no doubt in the medical literature that that shot is connected to autism. So 40 to 70% of American parents who have children on the autism spectrum say that it happened after vaccinations. But of course, if you listen to the mainstream media and to all the politicians lying in Congress, they say it has nothing to do with it. Same thing with the health authorities who lied to us all during COVID. Let me tell you, they didn't start lying to us about these issues during COVID. They started decades ago. So the president said, we're going to delay you should delay the hepatitis B vaccine. You should separate the MMR shots. You should only ever give your child one vaccine at a time. Go back over and over to the doctor. Don't do it all at once if you're going to vaccinate. Friends, do you realize what an unbelievable political earthquake this is for the sitting president to be giving this kind of advice to the public? He basically blew open the autism debate and the vaccine debate, which has been hidden and kept away from us. In fact, anybody like me who's been doing this for 25 years has been derided as a, quack, crazy, conspiracy theorist, whatever. I'm vaccine injured, friends. I got a ton of vaccines when I graduated from business school in order to go to Southeast Asia, and my health has never been the same. And I was 28. Imagine what happens to a child that's not even neurologically or immunologically developed. These things are extremely toxic. They cause all sorts of problems, and we have been lied to. So I am incredibly encouraged by what just happened with the president, because I feel like he has now opened the door to truly, honestly having a dialogue about these incredible issues that have been kept from us by the lying media for decades. That is something super exciting. And then I look at all the things we've achieved in Idaho in the last few years, in the last legislative session, and I'm thrilled about that. And I know that we have much more work to do. I'm not saying we don't. We have incredible work to do. In fact, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals just dismissed one of my lawsuits against it. We had sued the Los Angeles Unified School District over their COVID shot mandate for all employees. And we lost at the district court. We appealed. We won our appeal. And then the school district asked for a bigger panel of the Ninth Circuit to review the decision that we had won. And so you know what they did? They reviewed it, and within 3 months, they usually take 9 to 12 months to issue a decision. In 3 months, they issued their ruling. Within 3 months, can you guys hear that? usually take 9 to 12 months, which suggests that it was a political decision. It was a foregone conclusion. And what's also interesting is that 7 judges, can people hear this? Okay, 7 judges signed that ruling, but not a single one did what's called write a concurrence. Not a single one said, yes, I really agree with this, and I would add this or add that. None of them wanted to be on the record. They were all arguing on our behalf during oral argument in March, and then 3 months later they issue this ruling that says that not only does it not matter whether or not a COVID shot stops transmission or infection, all that matters is that the school district that issued the mandate could have believed it would help individuals. Oh, wow. No public health justification is necessary. No need for there to actually be a public health emergency. No need for the shot to actually stop transmission or infection. This opens the door to anything and everything imaginable being mandated by a government, state entity. So they decide that, you know what, you're not cheery enough at work. We want you to take some antidepressants. You aren't as productive as they'd like you to be. We want you to take some kind of, ADD med or something like this. This is where it's going. They want total control over our bodies. So now we're in a position where we are actually going to be appealing this to the Supreme Court. And if it goes against us, basically God has put this on my heart, that this is something that I need to do, is to appeal this. And I'm very frightened about doing it because I do not want a decision to go against us and then to be the person who basically took it to the Supreme Court and lost, because the Supreme Court then goes and solidifies a lawsuit from 120 years ago that says that a state entity can mandate a vaccine if it stops transmission and infection. That's essentially what this lawsuit from 120 years ago says, in an extreme situation. If they go against us, then it'll be something a burden that I have to bear. But what I really believe is that if we win, then we will have made a huge leap forward for our freedom, for the most basic and fundamental of human rights, the right to decide your own medical treatment. And if we lose, I believe it will be for a very, very good reason, and a very clear reason, and that is that it will send the truly unadulterated, pure, indisputable message to each and every one of us that there is no one in DC who is going to care for us, protect us, stand up for us, or defend us. That is on us to do. And so I think that it's worth the risk to take this case up to the Supreme Court and find out, are they with us or are they with the system? Mm-hmm. And I think we'll know that within the next year if they take the case. So I'm thrilled that the president and the secretary are doing incredible things that were considered unmentionable before. If I'd sit on an airplane 15 years ago and talk about vaccines, people would be like, what a loony, And now when I talk about people are like, yeah, there's something to this, isn't there? People really want to know, and they understand that they have been misled. In fact, 60% of all parents say they want the vaccine schedule to be studied more thoroughly because they are worried and because they've seen effects. So how many people, if you're over 60, how many of you knew someone who had a peanut allergy when you were a kid? Barely existed, right? I mean, very few people had peanut allergies in the 1960s and 70s, and now it's rampant. How many of us knew kids with asthma? Not very many. Now it's 10, 11, 12%. There's a chronic epidemic of chronic disease, and it's directly linked to the bad food, a lot of the toxins in our food, and these shots that we're giving to children. And this is all documented in the medical literature. So I'm going to wrap up because I want to pass it over to my dear friend Ryan, but I just want to say that I know that things are very, very dark and that there are forces of evil arrayed against us. I am not naive, not in any way, but I think that we have certain things in this state that no one else has. First of all, we're not so big that our voices don't matter. That's huge. We don't have 40 million people like California does. Secondly, we actually have legislators who are willing to go and sacrifice and go put in the time and hours to go and represent us and do this work. And I'm so grateful to Glenita and the rest of the Gang of Eight and the others who've been incredibly supportive of our work. We also have Health Freedom Idaho here in the state, which does unbelievable work every single legislative session to protect us. We've got the Idaho Freedom Foundation, which is educating us constantly about all of the ridiculous absurdities that happen in Boise all the time. We have great state organizations. We have a grassroots that's engaged. Our population is moving in the right direction. If you look at the demographics of all the people who are moving in, 4-1, they're on our side. We should be emboldened. We should be fired up. We should not be sitting back and resting on our laurels, even though we had a great session last year or this year. We have to be fired up because I am hearing directly from people that I know that they are going after our friends who are in the House and in the Senate. It's up to us to get out and talk to our friends, make sure that they all know who the good ones are, who's being lied about, and encourage people to disconnect from the media, the mainstream media, because they're just spinning yarns constantly. I'm thrilled to be an Idahoan. It'll be 50 years next year for my family. And there's no place that's ever felt like home to me anywhere in the world, no matter where I've gone or what I've done. And I just feel so hopeful about what can happen in the state because there are people like you all here and people like our legislators. And I just hope that you will be there for the long haul, that we are going to view any kind of setbacks that we have as a lesson from above for all of it, for us to learn from and to actually strengthen our resolve so that we can all move forward and make Idaho the shining light that I know that we all know it can be. Thank you so much.